Well, happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. I hope that you're enjoying it, or you did enjoy it. I don't know the outcome of the game. I didn't finish it. It was at the end of the first quarter at the time I'm recording this, so I have no idea which team won, but I hope you didn't lose too much money, or maybe you did win some, and I hope you did if you gambled on the game. But now we're into wrestling. That's what this show's about. We're into full speed into WrestleMania season, but we have a pit stop, and it's called Elimination Chamber. This past week, we had Elimination Chamber qualifying matches, as we normally do, heading into the Elimination Chamber. Of course, more to come. We saw some WrestleMania hints take place here, progress towards who could face who, Jade Cargill and Jordynne Grace, and is it Tiffany Stratton who's going to face Jade Cargill and not Bianca Belair? Lots to talk about. On top of women's tag team title matches, we had Braun Breaker on Raw go absolutely crazy. CM Punk, Roman Reigns, that had probably the best promo that they may have in the entire run up to their match at WrestleMania. I'm not sure how they can do better than that. And if they do, great. But that was maybe the highlight of the entire week. But lots more. And including, if you didn't see this was not on SmackDown, but I guess it's WWE related. Montez Ford returned in a NXT, I think it was an NXT show. He gained like 60 pounds, and I'm not even kidding. Yes, it's not AI. Montez Ford returned in tag team action, and he gained a lot of weight. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was on purpose. Maybe he just didn't care on his time off. I'm not sure, but it is insanely noticeable. And just making an observation, I don't really care one way or the other, but it is striking when you see him. Just do a quick search for Montez Ford, and you're going to be like, nah, this is fake. It's not. So prepare yourself when you search that out. So anyway, I hope you guys, again, are enjoying yourselves here on the Super Bowl Sunday. As many of you may call into work, the most called in day of the work is tomorrow. I will not be. I will be attending work as normal, so no worries. But if you are taking the day off, I hope you enjoy it and recuperate. So before we get there, I want to welcome you to the show and also give you an invitation to check out Patreon, because we're running a special for maybe another week or two tops, and it's going to be 50% off your first month on Patreon using the code CHAMBER at checkout. It'll get you 50% off your first month. It's the biggest sale of the year. We don't do anything bigger than this throughout the entire year. Black Friday, Christmas, nothing, right? This is it. So use the code CHAMBER at checkout, and you get your 50% off your first month if you want to join us at Patreon. So with that also said, we want to welcome you to the ad-free version if you're listening on Patreon. If you're not, well, great way to get rid of it. Great way to get rid of it if you're dealing with those ads already on this show. All right, so let's get into it. Amanda, by the way, who normally does our SmackDown review, had some technical difficulties this week, so that's why we didn't get the SmackDown review. But no worries. I'm here for you. And I do appreciate Amanda's contributions every single week. She does such a great job. Really, all of our co-hosts do, and I appreciate all of their efforts, including Daniel, who does main event, and all of you who join us on the mailbag every single week. You guys are the best. Alrighty, let's get to the weekend review here. I'm going to start with SmackDown. I'll try to go through as much as I can of it, and it is now a 3-hour show, so not as quickly as it normally would be. But we had Joe Tessitore open the show, and there was an aerial shot of the city, and Drew McIntyre makes his entrance. Cody comes out and attacks him from behind in the security aisle, and referees and producers come out and pull them apart. Cody gets in the ring and gets on the mic. He called McIntyre, eliminating him from the Royal Rumble. And despite not even being an entrant, Cody said CM Punk and Roman Reigns declared their hatred and had a championship match, which excited him as the biggest WWE fan. Cody questioned why he was the first name out of their mouths. And he said that some people suggested it would be a dick measuring contest. And Cody said they're glad he's not in on it because he didn't get the nickname Raheem for no reason. Cody told McIntyre not to worry about a thing because he won't make it to WrestleMania. Okay, so Cody talking, I don't know what that has to do with anything. Cody just getting a little edgy, I guess, and Kathy Kelly interviews Julia backstage and Kiana James about challenging for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. They said it was another step towards Julia becoming a triple champion. So that's when we have Nick Aldis backstage tell Cody Rhodes, who was surrounded by security, that his only path to the title at WrestleMania was in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match that he would put him in next week. And Aldis told him to control his emotions or we'll have to rethink about giving him a qualifying match. Cody said he'd leave and he'll see Aldis in Dallas. All right. So is there anybody in this world that believes Cody Rhodes is not going to at least participate in the Elimination Chamber, by the way? No. I mean, Cody Rhodes will make it to the chamber. The question, of course, becomes, where do they go from there? There's options, and they're trying to force one that is not working. It ain't working, in my estimation. And we'll talk about that and who that is, which is not exactly rocket science to figure out who I'm talking about. But Rhea Ripley and Io Sky then take on Julia and Kiana James for the women's tag team titles. The match went 11 minutes with Rhea and Io beating them. The finish was Julia drilling Sky with a knee and had her pinned, but Rhea Ripley broke it up. Rhea tagged in and caught Julia with a headbutt, and then Ripley hit Riptide, and Sky hit over the moonsault before Rhea pinned Julia. So Rhea and Io defeat the tag team of Kiana and Julia. Again, 11 minutes. And they retain their titles, which is about as expected as you could expect the match to go. Number one, it's the first match of the night. You typically don't get a lot of title changes towards the beginning of the show. That is usually reserved for the semi-main, maybe halfway through the show, like the midpoint or the end of the show. And if it's going to happen at all on a SmackDown or a regular Raw, but still entertaining nonetheless. I had no issues really with this matchup. Io and Rhea, I will say, are starting to feel a little bit bland. They're starting to feel like somebody's about to turn. At least in the we can start having the conversation of that. I don't think it's ready yet. I don't think we're at that moment yet. But I think it's time to start talking about it. Because it's been great having Rhea and Io take a break from chasing the women's championships. It's been great, and I've had no complaints. I really haven't. For all the things I complain about, I think that they are doing and have done a really nice job. But it's starting to, I think, get close to its expiration date. And that's not a complaint. That's life. Things can't last forever, whether it's in real life or in wrestling. And my argument is I could see these two having some sort of fallout at WrestleMania. I don't think Rhea or Io are going to be in a singles role at WrestleMania. I think they're going to be maybe defending their tag titles, and somebody turns on somebody. Maybe Rhea turns heel. How about that? No one's even discussing that. Rhea Ripley does need a bit of a shakeup. She's not stale. And same for, you can make the case for Io as well. But Rhea, as big of a name as she is, has taken a step back, and that's good. But it's time when she steps back into the spotlight, I think, to shake things up a bit. And turning her heel again would not be the worst idea in the world. She hasn't been heel in a while since she was with the Judgment Day with Dom a couple of years ago. So it's been a little bit. I don't know. I mean, there's a case to be made. I don't feel super strong about turning Rhea heel, but it's something you could entertain. Okay, We have then U.S. champion Carmelo Hayes and The Miz in a non-title match. The match went 9.5 minutes with Miz going for a skull-crushing finale, but Hayes rolled through it very nicely. I've never seen anyone roll through it that way. And he hit the first 48 for the victory. I don't know if I've ever seen that, maybe because I don't watch a lot of Miz matches on purpose, but the fluidity in which Carmelo Hayes was able to slide out or roll through that skull-crushing finale was incredible. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So Hayes, ultra talented. Miz does what he needs to do every week that he's out there. He is just the constant here. And Carmelo Hayes wins. So backstage, Kathy Kelly interviews Tiffany Stratton, who said her sights are on Elimination Chamber. Chelsea Green and Alba Fire interrupted. Green spoke of being newsworthy and handed Stratton a piece of paper that was made out to look like a newspaper headline. And Stratton said Green should be checking the obituaries because that's where her name would be after she wins the triple threat. Really? Yeah. Okay. Stratton, here's where I think Tiffany Stratton is taking a couple steps back here. From an on-air personality perspective, if you're trying to push her as a babyface, there are some big problems right now. She's not, I don't think she's connecting with the audience the way she used to. She is, she's lost some of that organic support. I mean, because she's already been champion, so the fans don't feel like they're pushing somebody who's an up-and-comer anymore. And, Tiffany hasn't really, I think, evolved too much on the microphone. In ring, she's young, she's ultra talented, she's got all the tools, but she is lacking that strong connection with the fans, I think, to continue the fans to cheer her. Not that she doesn't have any connection and no one's reacting. That's not the point. I think, though, my point is that she needs to, if they want to keep her as a babyface, try to work on that reaction, because there's something else that happened in this match here, this tag team match I'm going to talk about, that is very concerning if you are somebody who is a supporter of Tiffany Stratton when it comes to WrestleMania. So, or just in general, of her staying a babyface. But first of all, okay, somebody's name's going to appear on the obituary. Are you going to kill them after, they're going to appear in the newspaper? First of all, who reads newspapers anymore? Number one. Number two, you're saying you're going to actually, you're implying that they're going to be dead after the triple threat. That's the implication. I know it's a kind of a joke, tongue in cheek. It doesn't work. Either way, I thought that was a flat, stupid line from Tiffany Stratton. And also with Tiffany, I do have to say, if you follow her on TikTok or wherever, you just kind of, or you just stumble across, and this is what happened to me. I just kind of, was walking down the road and suddenly I just fell into Tiffany Stratton's TikTok page. She is, do I dare say, this is not meant to trigger people to start a clickbait or whatever. It's not my goal ever. My goal is to always just give you exactly what I'm thinking. And that's what I'm going to do here. Tiffany Stratton, to me, embodies what today's wrestlers, more so the women than the men, based on what I'm just seeing with my eyeballs, they're more interested in being, in influencers. They're more interested in getting followers on social media than being actual successful wrestlers. And I've talked about this before. And again, you could apply this to the men as well, but for the women, it's a little different too, because when they get on Instagram and do what they do, a lot of it, I have to say, and this is again observation. I know a lot of people will say, I can hear the arguments, but the women on Instagram that are the wrestlers, who are not all, but most that go on Instagram or TikTok, a lot of it is just to get attention for superficial stuff, whether it be their outfits that they're wearing or not wearing. It's inherently sexual in nature. And I don't want to hear, no, you make it sexual. No. See, I have two eyeballs and a brain. and I can use that to just simply observe what I'm watching. But again, I'm just supposed to ignore this stuff and not ever mention it, but that's not what I do. I'm not beholden to anyone, so I'm going to call it like it is. And a lot of the women, and yes, men, there are some that just seem like they're more interested in getting followers and being social media stars than being professional wrestlers. That seems to be, I think, where a lot of this lies. I'm a Tiffany Stratton, man. Specifically, I was looking at some of her stuff, and very off put by just how she speaks. She does come across in social media like a narcissistic, self-absorbed, materialistic woman. She just does. And maybe that's really her. Maybe it's not. I'm only seeing what I'm seeing based on what she's putting things out publicly. I'm not, of course, digging, and I would not dig through any of her private stuff. But when somebody's a public figure putting out public photos and public videos voluntarily, that gives me the right and you the right to comment on them. And they don't always have to be nice. It's just simple observation. She does seem to be insanely narcissistic, insanely superficial. That's just how I view it. And of course, you get a lot of the women supporting her on there. Oh, queen. Yes, queen, slay. You get all that stupid feminist crap. But I don't want, and again, this is where social media to me has kind of ruined professional wrestling, not just from the perspective of having the stars be more interested in getting followers than being successful professional wrestlers, but it's taken a lot of the mystery away as well, where you can kind of see into the lives of everyone on TV now. It's like their own individual Unreal all the time. Unreal. We all know what the Unreal episodes are. The series is, it's the look behind the scenes of the productions and creative, right? But now everybody has access. Every wrestler has access to the internet to connect with all of their fans at any point instantly and show them what they're doing. And it has taken a lot of the fun away from it. And I know that that's contrary to what a lot of people feel social media is doing with the wrestlers that connect with their fans on social media. But the fact that everybody has access all the time doesn't make it feel special when you see them anymore, because, well, they're always online. It doesn't, when they make an appearance, it's not like, my God, I haven't seen them. What have they been doing? It doesn't have that same mystery anymore. Everybody's just putting their stuff out there. And, but my point, circling back to Tiffany, I think that she's losing a lot of momentum here. And maybe they just turn her heel. I would argue Tiffany Stratton, while Jade is no better, I'm not certainly putting Jade in a category to flip her babyface. No. That's not my argument. But with Tiffany, I don't know what's happening here. I think that they might have an argument to turn her back. Okay, but this triple threat with Lash Legend, Tiffany Stratton, and Chelsea Green for the women's Elimination Chamber match. After I have all the women mad at me for what I just said, I could care less. It's not an attack on women. All right. It's as a species, it's an attack on how wrestlers, yes, the women do this more, but the men aren't exempt. The way they portray themselves on social media, I'm not a fan, That's just how I feel about it. And Tiffany seems very unlikable, at least for me and my personality. She is like the most off-putting personality. She's going to get her like Louis Vuitton bags and talking about her nails and talking about what pants she's wearing. And maybe it's also partly because I'm a guy. I'm just like, I just don't give a shit about any of that. Like, I don't care. Just get in the ring and wrestle and make him, do compelling storylines, wrestle your ass off, that kind of thing. And it's like, I see this, I'm like, who cares? Maybe that is also part of the reason that I'm just so off put by it. But it's also today's superficial culture of, look at me, how can I serve myself? Look at all the cool stuff I have. Look at my body. Look at my jewelry. Look at my clothes. Look at my designer outfits and my designer bags in my car that I've got, that I'm driving, and my, the way my hair is done and my makeup. Let's do a tutorial. I am so off put by all that crap, just generally, that I'm already kind of predisposed to not be open and excited when I see somebody, presenting themselves like this. So, all right. And somebody here, here's what I'm going to hear from somebody, is, you want the Handmaid's Tale, right? Because that's the only thing anybody can ever reference, which is, by the way, a completely fictional story and would never happen ever, right? That's like the only thing. You want all the women in potato sacks. No, I actually really, really hate when they go to Saudi Arabia and all the women are required to wear essentially head to toe garments. I think it's stupid. To me, it's disrespectful. And it's not that I want to see a lot of skin, and that's not my motive for saying that. My motive is simply that it's not equal treatment. That's truly not equal treatment. I hate that, and I'm sure the women hate that as well, and they should. It's completely disrespectful, and I think it's something that should not be celebrated, that the women are able to wrestle, but oh, by the way, we're telling you how much you have to wear. Really? Again, different cultures have different requirements, but to me, that's not something to celebrate over there. All right. So here we go. That's why 98% of my audience is male. I'll just tell you that. Okay. So this matchup with the triple threat here for the qualifier, it went 10 and a half minutes with Tiffany winning. The finish was Green covering Legend. Jax pulled Green to the floor. Yes, Nia Jax. Fire confronted Jax, and then Legend joined them, ended up taking a double super kick from both opponents. That was kind of weak, but back inside the ring, Green went for an unprettier, but Stratton stopped it and hit the prettiest moonsault for the victory. And we were all kind of wondering, it came down to really two people. It was either going to be Chelsea Green or Tiffany Stratton, and Chelsea Green continues to be the lovable loser. But I will say Chelsea Green, for all the stuff I don't agree with her pretty much on anything she has to say personally outside of wrestling, much like CM Punk and other wrestlers, that if you remove their pro wrestling part of themselves, I would never associate or would want to associate with them at all. But putting that aside, we have Chelsea Green. To me, she has a much more robust, diverse personality and deeper character than Tiffany Stratton does. I would say that with very high confidence. And you could tell the crowd here was disappointed when Tiffany Stratton, who we're all supposed to cheer for here, was setting up for getting the victory here in the prettiest moonsault, all that. It's like, 1, 2, 3, and the fans are like, yay. Like, they didn't boo her, but it wasn't an overwhelming excitement for Tiffany Stratton beating Chelsea Green. That would be concerning for me if I'm Tiffany Stratton. So we then had Randy Orton interviewed for his qualifying match. We had Kit Wilson versus Obafemi. That was under a minute, with Obafemi defeating Kit Wilson after Wilson scolded Oba for calling him toxic, and Wilson said he's a feminist, and Oba mauled Wilson and finished him off with a fall from grace. Yeah, and this is, you got to have these squash matches sometime. You remember how Braun Strowman would come in every now and again, and when they build him up, he would just squash people. There's a role in wrestling that needs to be filled for people like this, and for both Obafemi and Kit Wilson. Kit Wilson is the big mouth heel that can't back it up and is just going to get his ass kicked, and that's fine. It's not a complaint. His gimmick is what it is. It's I think correctly categorized as a heel character, because being a dude and a feminist is one of the most just horrible combinations you could possibly be. It's about as bad as it gets. So correctly putting him in that category is correct. That is a very unlikable character and character traits to have. So Kit Wilson getting his ass kicked by Obafemi, good. I think that they're trying to build Obafemi for maybe a Brock Lesnar eventual encounter whenever Brock decides to come back, maybe one more time before WrestleMania. Brock and Obafemi, you would think, is the plan. Other than that, it's Brock and Gunther, which we've all been waiting for. But the match was what it was, and Obafemi destroyed him. He didn't even have a single offensive move. So we had Drew McIntyre walk by and bumped Truth with his shoulder just as Priest was about to respond to Truth. Priest said McIntyre doesn't need more problems. McIntyre shook his index finger at Priest and walked away. McIntyre made his entrance, got a microphone, and that's when Jacob Fatu attacks McIntyre with a hip attack, clothesline McIntyre over the rope onto the floor, and hit him with a suicide dive because, of course, 270-pound men do that now. And security guards ran out and were beaten up by Fatu, who reached over the barricade, and Drew ends up, for the second time in one night, escaping through the crowd with his championship. And I will say again, Fatu is kind of in a weird scenario as well. He's in a similar scenario to Tiffany Stratton, but for different reasons. Fatu, and I've said this before, he's becoming a star, but he's not a star yet. And I know this business is built on new stars, and I have said and continue to say that I am patient with star building and the process it takes to build a star. Much more than I think a casual fan, not you guys. If you're listening to a wrestling podcast, you're, I would say, a hardcore fan. Most fans don't listen to wrestling podcasts. But that said, you can't have a kind of star be put in a championship situation potentially at WrestleMania. I think it's a mistake. I really do. And I'm also not a fan of multi-person championship matches just on principle for WrestleMania. So there's that too. And I don't think the crowd reaction for Fatu warrants him being in a championship match at WrestleMania. Now, nothing's official yet, but it seems like that's what they're building to. Fatu just continues to attack McIntyre, continues to put his nose in McIntyre's business because he thinks that McIntyre is the one that attacked him a number of months ago, which it could be him, but it may end up being Cody with it. I would hope it is. But that all said, Fatu doesn't feel like he's ready. And here's a great signal. Here's a great signal how you don't really have the fans with you yet. You want the litmus test? Here it is. When you come out and you do something very significant, you're attacking the WWE champion, right? And you're getting some reaction. The crowd's not sitting on their ass. They're not really up in their seats yelling and screaming. They're not really making a really unified move towards you. They're not like all in unison, or 80 or 90% of people are just, you can tell they're emotionally connected to your character. You can tell that everybody is cheering you on. They want you to see, want to see you get your hands on the heel champion. When you have to try to pump up the crowd to get a reaction, you don't have the crowd. And you may be like, what are you talking about? Jacob Fatu didn't get a super strong reaction to this. I think the fans, much like Tiffany Stratton, were kind of like, oh, all right, well, we're not going to boo this, but it's kind of, they were conflicted on what to do because fans respect Drew way more than they think they respect Jacob Fatu, just based on tenure alone. So when the fans start to act a little bit apathetic or conflicted where they just don't say anything because they don't know what to do, and the only way you elicit a reaction is when Fatu at the end of the whole segment starts like yelling and screaming, which is a signal to the crowd of, hey, give me a reaction. That's what Jacob's action is intended to trigger, is a reaction from the crowd. And if you even have to do that in the first place, you have a problem, right? You have a big problem. Now, it's not to say that you shouldn't be doing things, yelling or screaming or doing your signature move or whatever you do in the ring. That's something that you do that does enhance crowd reaction, but it shouldn't be the catalyst to get people behind you. Do you see the distinction I'm trying to make here? So if you have to trigger people to tell them to do it, it's almost like a sympathy reaction from the crowd. Like, okay, we don't hate you. Yeah, cool. We'll cheer for that because you want us to. That is the psychology behind that. Not good for Fatu. If you're looking for the question to be answered in the affirmative that he's ready for a main event spot at WrestleMania in a title match, I don't think he's ready. Not that he's a bad wrestler. He's a little bit sloppy, but that's his style. And I don't mean sloppy in the unsafe way. Just kind of, he's not a technician. He's a brawler. And that's fine. But he could clean things up a little bit. Relax on the suicide dives. I've been, that and the super kick should be just outlawed and banned. You should be hung from the gallows. I mean, I really believe, well, I don't truly believe that, but I'm being over dramatic. You should be fired from the company if you perform a super kick and it's not your finish, and or you perform a suicide dive and you are over 250 pounds. You're gone. That would be my new WWE. But that's my thoughts on Jacob Fatu, man. He's not he's got a good look. He's intense. He's wild. He's a Samoan. But he hasn't yet ever had a really good promo. Still don't have that, much like Jade Cargill. I know I hammer on her too. And I didn't really talk about her promo. I should have, because she actually did okay in her segment. I got to give her credit. She did okay. She did the bare minimum. But every chance I get, Jade Cargill's like the standard bearer for looks great, is okay in the ring, and that's it. Jacob, he's kind of erratic on the mic, been fairly consistent in the ring. His music's not great, but the fans are with him because of his history, and he's a Samoan and he's intense and all the rest. But I don't know. That's how I feel about Jacob. He's not quite ready. I think he needs, if they're going to push him that far, another year of polish and just sitting under the learning tree and figuring out who and what he is and coming up with, I don't know, maybe a good promo. Like wrestling promos and the ability and art of them have kind of gone out the window. The volume of them have gone out the window. It's just, can you read your lines good? It's not so much, can you deliver a great promo? It's how well can you read your lines and remember them? There's a big difference there. All right. So Shinsuke Nakamura and Tama Tonga then have their match, and let's see here. I don't know if 10 minutes and 25 seconds Tama Tonga beats Shinsuke, and not too much to say there. He came across, Kit Wilson comes across Matt Cardona and Apollo Crews, and Wilson said Cardona is toxic and he's not finished with him yet. Cardona said he's always ready, and Wilson said he needed a warm bath and walked away. We then had Jade Cargill come out. I wanted to give her credit here before I forgot. And she said she doesn't care that Morgan won the Rumble or that she was on SmackDown. She said, if you choose me, I'm going to beat that ass at WrestleMania. Jade asked Rodriguez what she was looking at, and Morgan laughed and said Jade was funny, and there was some tension here. So again, you got a couple lines from Jade. Nothing blow away, but at least, and this is sad that this is even giving WWE credit because I shouldn't, because this is like bare minimum stuff, that you have your champion, your heel champion, who hasn't defended her belt yet. They're clearly not, they don't trust her to put on a solid 10-minute match by herself. They have yet to really put her out there in a situation where she has to cut a great promo because I guess she just can't. I've come to that conclusion. She just can't. But she did the bare minimum here. She does have an aura around her. 95% of the reason is because of how she looks. And Rodriguez is her equal in some ways, her height, but her physique obviously is superseded by Jade. But Jordynne Grace comes out, and Grace came out with a mic and spoke on her way to the ring. And Grace told Morgan that she might be facing her if she could get the champion to defend her title. And Jade and Grace simultaneously said, "Shut up, B." And that was that. So we get Jade Cargill versus Jordynne Grace and Liv Morgan. I'm sorry, Jordynne Grace and Jade Cargill taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. The match went 8.5 minutes with Jade and Jordynne Grace beating Liv and Raquel. after Grace shoved Rodriguez into Jade and then rolled up Rodriguez for the victory. Jade was then shown at ringside, who glared at Grace, and a lot of tension everywhere, essentially. I mean, there's just tension just basically everywhere. And Jordynne Grace is a nice little wrinkle into the fabric here. I don't think she's really going to go anywhere. It doesn't feel like she really fits yet. She hasn't found her footing. She's a veteran. She has that going for her. She's unique looking. She has that going for her, but she has yet to find the pieces to the puzzle yet to really find her place on SmackDown. So, all right. Zayn and Trick Williams had a little spat backstage, and then we had Jordynne Grace again backstage with Jade and Nick Aldis, and he told Jade not to lock in her WrestleMania plans yet because she had to defend her title against Grace on next week's SmackDown. So is this her first title defense? It might be. It might be Jade's. I think it is. All right. Let's continue. So we have Drew McIntyre was on the broadcast table and said Cody and Jacob should be banned from the Elimination Chamber qualifying matches for attacking him. He said people thought Sammy was going to win the big one, but he crushed him and broke his dreams. He addressed CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and he said he was disappointed after hearing what they had to say. And McIntyre said they both seemed very insecure. He said they could talk about him all day long, but what frustrated him was how they tried to make SmackDown, the SmackDown brand and the WWE Championship second rate. McIntyre told the SmackDown roster that if they didn't see a declaration of war and if they didn't wrestle every match like it was their last, he would show them the door. McIntyre ran through a list of legendary champions and said that anyone who doesn't say it's the top title is a liar. And he said that while Punk and Reigns were acting like little boys, he had the entire SmackDown roster climbing over each other for the right to face him in the real best in the world of WrestleMania. And that was it. Well, that's not it. But for McIntyre's piece here, I think it was well done. Glad that he stood up for SmackDown and the title, because Roman's comment about Raw being the top show, which it is in a lot of ways, but it's smart and important that Drew respond to that as the flag bearer for SmackDown. So that was a smart choice there by McIntyre or whoever came up with that, or maybe it's a collaboration. Important to say. I also think that the idea that he's going to show people the door, is he implying that he has power to hire and fire people? Whatever. So Trick Williams then comes out, though. Not my favorite guy. I mean, he's unlikable as well. I mean, he just is. I don't see the appeal. I mean, he's very gimmicky. He's like a cartoon character come to life. Athletic as hell. I understand the appeal, or at least I understand why people see the appeal in him. I don't see a way in which he becomes a massive babyface in this particular program. Obviously, again, very athletic. He's young. He's got a bright future, but it feels like, and I said this since he debuted in the main roster, it's like he over gimmicked his gimmick. There's too much going on. He's too over the top. It's like he's trying too hard with his gimmick. That's the biggest problem I have. Instead of toning it down a little bit, it's so outlandish that it's going to end up backfiring on him. Because when it becomes ungrounded in reality, which it already is, but when it becomes more apparent to people that it's grounded in just fantasy world and not grounded in some human element that you can grab onto and say, yeah, I can see myself in that person. I can relate to that. It's going to backfire. So that's my opinion about the Trick Williams character. Now, I know some people are going to, I've already been, whatever. You can imagine the things that when I talk about Trick Williams and I just don't like him, why people think I don't. It's very right. We all know what we're talking about here, right? It's absurd, of course, but I don't need to sit here and defend myself on that. If anybody that thinks that can, screw off. Like, if you think that that's the reason I don't like Trick Williams, but whatever. Like, you want to think I'm not, like, that's your problem. I don't care. But I know that right off the bat, anytime you have that, it's just, I must never speak ill of any wrestlers that are, like, not white. Like, all non-white wrestlers are just the greatest. I can never have a criticism. When on a daily, weekly basis, many times a week, I criticize white wrestlers all the time. So, it's most of the show, but, hey, whatever. If people want to focus on that. That's your problem. All right. But Trick Williams does come out again, not a fan of his gimmick. And he said McIntyre needs to be worried about him as the future of the business, the most qualified man on SmackDown. Right. McIntyre approached Trick and advised him to walk before he runs. And he said that if Trick interrupted the champ again, he'd stick the lemon pepper steppers where the sun don't shine. And he headed to the back, and that was that. We then had Elimination Chamber Qualifiers being advertised for Monday in Cleveland. And the ad did not advertise any names, which was weird. And that was it. So next week, though, on SmackDown, Trick Williams is going to take on Rey Fenix, Jade Cargill versus Jordynne Grace for the Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Nia Jax and Lash Legend for the Women's Tag Titles. Alexa Bliss versus Julia versus Zelina in a Chamber Qualifier. Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu versus Sami Zayn in an Elimination Chamber Qualifier. All right. So, pretty stacked card next week. Championship matches. You got a hell of I'm guessing main event with Cody, Jacob, and Sami for a Chamber Qualifier. Good stuff. Now, the final match here was Solo Sikoa and Randy Orton and Aleister Black in a triple threat for the men's Elimination Chamber as well. Now, this match was longer, 16 and a half minutes, with Randy Orton beating Solo and Aleister Black. And it happened after Orton stood up and back towards Solo before dropping him with an RKO, got the 3 count, after also hitting Aleister Black with an RKO. So Randy Orton had a heck of a night here. He posed, and that was that. So, heck of a lot of wrestling on SmackDown. 7 matches. It's a lot. I know it's for 3 hours. That sounds like, that's not a lot, but look at your typical Raw for 3 hours and take a look at how many matches you often get. Sometimes it's like 3 for the whole night. That's happened. So 7 is quite the stacked wrestling card, which is kind of crazy. We should even be discussing the fact that there should be more wrestling on a wrestling show. But if you like the wrestling part of it and not the entertainment-y stuff, well, you got a lot of that. So there you go. We're heading towards the Chamber in just a few weeks. And then, of course, WrestleMania follows behind that with no Saturday night main event nonsense, from what I understand so far. But that'll do it for me on this week in review. If you guys want to join us ad-free, head on over to Patreon. Use code CHAMBER at checkout, and it'll get you 50% off your first month at patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can also email us, mailbag@wwepodcast.com, for your mailbag inclusion. Also, if you want to call us and leave a voicemail, you can do that. Here's the number, 518-952-0247. So 518-952-0247. It's not my number, okay? I promise you. Not going to answer. I will not answer and say, hello? Who's this, right? It's not going to be awkward. It's a Google Voice account. So all you got to do is call, and you can leave a voicemail. It will cut you off at 3 minutes. We have a 3-minute policy there on Google Voice. So don't try to talk beyond that, because it won't let you. But you can do that if you want to be on the show and give your opinions on what's going on, and we'll put you on the mailbag show that airs every single Friday. So there you go. I didn't really talk much about Raw. I know it's the week in review, not necessarily exclusively to SmackDown, but there is a detailed Raw review that I did earlier in the week on Tuesday that you can listen to if you want a more specified Raw focus. But at this point, you're probably listening on Monday, in which case you're looking forward to tonight's Raw anyway and don't care about last week. So there's your mostly SmackDown review wrapped up into one as we roll towards the Chamber. And that will do it for me. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. Hope you didn't lose too much money. And we will talk in a couple days.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.